Hello. Welcome to our session around software-defined automation and how does it apply to efficiency, digitization, and we're going to really focus a lot on how it helps our workforce, enable our workforce today. So I'm Nathalie Marcotte. I'm leading process automation business for Schneider Electric, and I'm joined by this impressive panel here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, then we can dive into the session itself. So maybe starting with you, George.
I'm George Weber. I'm from the company Velo. Velo is one of the leading manufacturers of pumps and pump solutions worldwide. And we're one of the innovation leaders, you could say, and our slogan is pioneering for you. And in this case, we're always looking for advanced digital solutions, which are also contributing to sustainability. I'm the CTO of this company. It's always a fantastic job I can do because I have the opportunity to influence a number of nice things, and I have a great team who's supporting me in that one.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Raquel Torres. I'm Chief Ecosystem Officer of universalautomation.org. And what Universal Automation is a nonprofit independent organization that was created to respond to the growing needs of end users that want to leverage emerging technologies but feel constrained by the current automation solutions that are closed, proprietary, and outdated. So what UAO, or universalautomation.org, does is we drive the adoption of a common automation layer, which is what we call the UAO runtime, that is based on modern software principles. And this makes possible the complete uncoupling, or basically that the application software is independent of the hardware on which it runs. The UAO runtime makes possible that the application software is completely portable and independent of the vendor platforms, and that these vendor platforms, the UAO platforms, can talk to each other seamlessly. What's more is that thanks to this runtime, you can now build your application software out of software components that are reusable, proven in use, and completely agnostic. The benefits that our members report thanks to using this technology is an increased return on investment on their application software, the ability to execute on more complex use cases like AI, digital twin, in a much more simple and cost-effective way. And of course, it lays the foundation for the low-code, no-code type of solutions that many of our members are now chasing. The ARC Forum forecasts that this technology is going to save 130 billion in maintenance and in avoiding unplanned downtime. Now, to really reach the biggest potential of this technology, we need every single vendor on board, and that's why we recruit vendors that want to embed the technology into their solutions. And by the way, this takes a matter of few weeks or months. But of course, we need the whole ecosystem. We recruit end users that want to push this and that share our vision and advocate for us in the market. We recruit system integrators that can make this type of projects for our members. And we recruit universities that are training the soon-to-be employees of this ecosystem. Today, we are 82 members after over 2 years of operations. Our growth is really becoming exponential as the market is taking notice, and we have recruited companies like AB InBev, BASF, Nestle, EDF, Hyundai in the last 4 months. So if you share this vision with us, please join us, because with you we can go faster. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcel? Maurice?
My name is Maurice. Sorry for my English because I don't practice a lot. I'm a French company and Master System. We are a system integrator in the south of France. We are 35 persons, and we use E&E between now 4 years. And we are UAO partner. Yeah. And For the moment, we work in the solution EIO in some customer place.
Thank you. And finally, Franco.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, my name is Franco Cavadini, and I'm Chief Technology Officer at Green. Green, in its more general acceptation, is a startup, even if we have been founded more than 10 years ago. And we work in the chemical industry. In particular, we are developing a new process for recycling of PET plastics, the polyethylene terephthalate that you use in your bottles, but most importantly, in most of the garments that you have on you now, the so-called polyester. We started, as I was telling before, more than 10 years ago, this path of industrialization from a patent and a prototype reactor validated at university level. We passed through several stages of progressive maturation for our technology, and now we are on the verge of actually starting the engineering of our first industrial scale plant, which was, by the way, announced last summer by one of our investors and major stakeholders. What we do is that we take PET plastics from post-consumer and post-industrial waste, both textile and packaging, and through our proprietary process, we are capable of bringing it back to its composing monomers, MEG, monoethylene glycol, and terephthalic acid, at the same exact quality of those coming from fossil-derived feedstock, which means that then we can use these monomers to reproduce whatever plastic product, PET-based, independently from its usual. Skin contact, food grade, everything, independently from the waste it's coming from. Now, I'm here today because as Green and as TTO at Green, I've been pushing in our greenfield plants the adoption of innovative technologies for automation. I don't want our processes to be innovative just from a chemical point of view and then being based on last century automation solutions. We have been using technologies from EcoStruxure throughout all our steps of industrialization, the most recent one being the last demonstration plant that was inaugurated in Italy right a few weeks ago, which is fully based on EcoStruxure Automation Expert as an engineering platform and UAO runtime as open automation runtime to be used to develop real-time control software. And that's, let's say, it in a few words. I hope there will be other occasions during the conversation to go deeper into the details of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for the intro. So, I mean, what we're going to dive in now is, you've heard a lot about digitization and, data insights. And what we realize, there's a bit of a fear. One hand, obviously, data insight will provide your operator, your people at the plant, the people leading the plant, more insights to operate their plant, which will bring productivity. I'm nowadays we all take for granted, like when we drive our car, we have information on the traffic, which is allowing us to go elsewhere when we see the traffic is red here, we take another route, and I'm sure pretty much many of you, if you drove or come here, that's really key, and now we take it for granted. So it's the same principle. There is a fear in the industry, there's a fear by some of the workers that technology will replace people. But honestly, what we've seen in the market is actually the other way around. All this data insight, all this technology enable your people to be more efficient, allow them to be working in a more safe manner, and allowing them to be more engaged and provide more value. So it's a true benefit, and we're going to share with some of our panel here some of what they've seen in their place. But before I dive in, the last piece is I want to bring this to, automation has been in the heart of digitization. And today, if we really want, if you think about, you've seen automation, energy management, and digitization. For automation to, there's a lot of data that has been in the automation system. It's still the core of the OT. And really, if we want automation to contribute to the full journey of digitization and efficiency and sustainability, we need to open the system and make it software defined. It's only by decoupling the hardware and the software that then the automation system will fully contribute in the ecosystem of all the application and the software layers that will bring benefit to the client. Then you're not going to be forced every 10 years, or the hardware obsolescence will not drive decision on the software. It's going to be fully decoupled. So that's really the journey that we've started already 3 years ago in Schneider. We've introduced EcoStruxure Automation Expert. You've seen this year we released the latest version, and we've really working with clients in this journey. So let's dive now in some of the questions in terms of, and I'll start with you, George. How is the integration of software-defined transform the role of employees within your organization?
Yeah, perhaps before I start answering this question, Nathalie, I just had a little conversation with a colleague to say how did we start with the automation. And that was, I remembered when I came to Velo 12 years ago, we started with the MES system. So MES, for those who are not familiar with it, manufacturing execution system. And we had an SMD line of 8-9 different process steps and manufacturers. And when we started having the integration of these single machines, they asked us money for the interface. So they asked for 25,000 a piece, let's say, in the process. So something we cannot imagine anymore today that what would happen. Just as a little anecdote. Back to your question, I think what has changed is for example, what we experienced is that the number of software licenses we could cut down massively. That saved money because we only need one big one, basically, you could say. And when you look at the engineers as well, of course, they had to be busy with every single machine and the interface and connecting that and hardware and software. And nowadays you have people, and those automation engineers are they able to focus only on the software now. So they have far more time, have more focus, and they basically can improve the process far better. I mean, this is, let's say, a very nice evolvement over years now, what you can see. What I'm talking about is Velo has one big factory, a smart factory in Dortmund in Germany, which basically has also been awarded last year for the Factory of the Year award, and just lately also by Microsoft with the MIMA award for particularly the digitalization of that one. And so with the anecdote I want to share with you, that was a long way to go. It was 10, 12 years of being busy with that one. But now we have the harvesting time. So we harvest now from the fact that we have, let's say, a key software to run and not single systems to learn. So in that case, the life gets easier and simpler, and quality gets better, hardly any belt stops, etc., etc. So I think the big, huge improvement of productivity. Many years ago, when we were talking about Industry 4.0, we all said, well, if this will pay back, we don't know. We invested a lot. I can say now it pays off.
That's
now
great.
It pays off.
Great to hear. And
it took a while, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So Raquel, you've been, you mentioned 82 partners now with Universal Automation. Maybe you can share with us some of the feedback you got from these companies as far as their, working with an open software-defined platform, and what happened for their employees.
For the employees, yeah. So I think, in the end, engineers are problem solvers, right? So anytime we give them the tools to do their job in a smarter way, faster, we remove the repetitive, low-value tasks. We're empowering them to do their best job, to actually feel that they add value to the organization, and that's a more fulfilled employee. And now I want to share a few examples, and all of them kind of give this perspective specifically to our members. So first of all, I want to talk about ExxonMobil. They're one of our founding members, very vocal about all the benefits they derive from using the technology. In particular, I've seen them light up when they talk about the speed and efficiency that they've gained in their advanced control processes, thanks to the event-driven control capabilities of the runtime. So, to put an example, they are able now to run a model for predictive control that they used to run in 15 seconds. Now they can do it in 40 milliseconds. And they can even go down to 1 millisecond for general purpose equipment. For them, empowerment means being able to leverage any available technology out there without being constrained by artificial barriers, which is what some vendor locking means, right? I want to mention as well Veolia, because of course, it's a French member, so I thought it was relevant. Veolia has to integrate and manage many different systems across the country, many different vendors. That's of course a lot of time and cost of integration. But when we think about the employees, is again, high training costs, but also a lot of pressure on employees to be trained on those technologies, to keep up to date on those skills on top of their daily jobs, right? So when Veolia pulls the skills of their employees around a single agnostic platform, they're more operational efficient, they can minimize dependency, and of course they can standardize. But zooming in on the employees, now they have one single platform to learn, one single platform to master, one language to talk to each other, to share best practices, to learn about what's working, what's not. Someone can build an application that is best of breed, and they can deploy it across sites seamlessly. So again, it's about having more time to do the things that really move the needle, and focusing on letting the creativity of the employees and their intelligence shine through, and not being busy on really useless kind of stuff. And then third case, I want to talk about Kongsberg Maritime, because they use their runtime in a slightly different way. They use it at a server level to orchestrate and wrap and reuse legacy applications. So they can offload legacy systems, expand them, add new functionality on top of it. So they're effectively converging IT and OT, adding analytics and other use cases. In particular, one example of how they use this is to automate complex operator tasks, like it could be one-button startup or well barrier testing. And so by automating these tasks, they're saving time on repetitive, they're avoiding repetitive tasks. They're saving, there's less room for human error as well, of course, when they remove these kind of tasks. They're saving time on commuting from employees to the offshore platforms where they have to take these activities. And they can, now with analytics, they can have alerts, they can have advice on what's the best thing to do when something goes wrong, etc. But so of course the benefit for the employees, but I wanted also with this case highlight something that is probably on the mind of many of you right now, which is in order to leverage the UL runtime, you don't need to wait for your next greenfield project down the line. You don't need to wait to have your legacy systems obsolete. You can start today, really leveraging the power of the technology.
Oh, that's great example, and I guess the summary, a lot of repetitive tasks are disappearing from what I've been listening to the different examples, so that's great for people that, you reduce that, they're more engaged after. Yeah. So maybe I'll jump to you, Franco, in terms of how, your employees adapted to the new digital skills, and did you use were you intentional? Did you use a specific strategy on change engagement, or it happened naturally, or talk to us about how that happened?
To answer the question, I need to have a step back and talk a bit about the engineering workflow of automation in a sector like ours, which is basically continuous processes industry. Traditional way of doing automation see the control people and the software for control people coming very last in the step of the life cycle. Everything has been defined, the process has been designed, even the hardware has been chosen, and then almost last in the steps comes the automation people and the software guys supporting these automation people. Now, if we simply take new tools like Automation Expert and we bring these inside this exact same value chain, the impact would be minimum, because we do not change the context for the usage of such tools. I mean, software-defined automation means also that we need to bring the definition of automation earlier in the life cycle of designing of the whole system, because software is what is going to govern physical assets. And this has not been considered in that way for many years. So going back to the question, for me, bringing the technology to our use cases was not just involving a system integrator and asking him to use automation expert. It was designing and thinking about a completely new way of developing specifications for control, working with suppliers of electrical cabinets and designing hardware architecture to support this software-defined automation, providing correct information to the software developers so that they could really exploit the software itself. So the impact I see was twofold. On one end, on my employees, my engineers, which are mostly process engineers, not apt to control software, to tell them, look, when you think about our process and you think about the control loops of that process, already envision and embed concepts that will impact the way software to implement that control will work, and change the way you design the process and the application to consider this natural object orientation that this new tool offers. And then, on the side of suppliers, because I consider them as a sort of extension of our employees, I needed to define guidelines for multiple system integrators working contemporarily on the same plant, so that what I achieved was a well-maintainable software which was coming from multiple sources, designed and conceived from a software architecture point of view in the same way independently from the supplier used to develop it. And let's say that there were hiccups, there were training in the job, but this has really played well in the perception from my employees and from the vendors, the suppliers that I've used throughout the projects.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, you bring good points, and we've seen that also in the market. If you try to spec and do the requirements with the old technology in mind, you're gonna miss it, because there's so much new capability, new ways, and new approach. I'll give you an example. In the past, when we would visit clients, they say, "Oh, your hardware needs to be good for 20 years because my life, my plan needs to be up for 20 years." But nowadays, if you decouple the software, the hardware, and it becomes more standard hardware, you don't need this 20 years. And I can tell you, with the supply chain crisis we had, and when we would go to our chip provider and ask them to reproduce chips that were 15 years old, we didn't get much support from that respect. So when we start decoupling, we realize there's a new benefit. So the spec, when you require an open system, a software-defined, an event-driven, the spec has to be thought this way, which is really a shift we're realizing even ourselves. We try to replicate, but that's not, we need to think differently, and I think the strategy we use highlight this at this point with your team. So to you, Maurice, in terms of what benefit have you seen when you implemented, benefit and operational, different benefit you've seen by implementing these type of technology?
I have a customer who, the name is Sofim, who work in cosmetic, who made the first product, the base product for the cosmetic. And we put some solution in EAE, because usually we implement Control Expert, but we work on this solution. And now we put a solution to bring data with predictive solution, predictive brick, with a specific module on analog device to put in a motor, on a pump, or an agitator. And after the data was calculated on the specific analytics, and after they have some alarms to stop the production before to crash the motor. And now for the customer, it's very good, because they don't lose a production, and it's a great solution, easy to put.
And that was implemented on the open platform?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good benefit for sure.
Of course.
So maybe I'll come back to you, George. So maybe you can share with us some lessons learned from your first, and maybe some recommendation for people that want to go in that journey. That would from your insights and lessons learned, what would you do differently, or recommendation you would give the audience here?
Yeah, I think it's manifold. I think what's the first topic, what we had to find the right people to do all the automation work, because finding those people who are working on the interface between IT and manufacturing or process manufacturing wasn't so easy, so you need to educate them. Or basically they did that on the job. But typically we found them, and even now when I look back a few years ago, these are today the strong pushers, let's say, of innovation you have, because we educated them and they developed over the years. I think that was quite important to give them also the space to do that. I think when you look at the personnel, that is an issue what we probably will face also, not only in Europe, I guess, but also in some other parts of the world, is that we don't get sufficient software engineers or people who can do the automation. I think that is getting a growing issue. So you have to help yourself. And basically that comes together, let's say, giving space to people that they can grow, having the systems that they can excel in, and let them run on the long rope, I would say. Yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely
I would say it's very much a people issue.
Yeah.
I would say it's not so much an investment issue or whatsoever. I mean, it's around people, I would say, today, in the meantime.
Yeah, so change management has to be part of the
Absolutely.
journey.
Absolutely.
In order
Yes.
to...
Yeah.
So before I ask some more questions, actually, we will be able to take questions. I don't know if there's any questions from the audience, from anybody here.
This one?
And you need to put the...
I can talk really loud.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's a good-
Oh, here. I don't know. Okay.
Can you hear me? No? Yes? Okay. So my question, we're a systems integrator, so we've had an opportunity to talk to some customers about, I'm all tied up here, about EAE, and one of the things that we get a little bit as pushback, I thought maybe you would talk about it a little bit, Marco, is it's a very different set of skills for like a traditional programming group to come from the 6311, IEC programming languages, ladder and function block, to the very IT-centric world with EAE. And this is maybe more a question for Schneider or for end customers, but how are you getting end customers comfortable with the change or the learning or the training that would need to go on to make sure their current staff could be capable of doing those sorts of things?
Okay, so
yeah,
I will try to start the answer, which is a complex one, by the way, because there is a problem of a generational gap in know-how in automation industry. This is a problem for everybody, because the technology you mentioned, 61131, ladder, SFC, these are old technologies which were learned decades ago, and people expert of that are getting older and older, and new generations don't want to learn that. So there is a problem of how to use existing plants with people that are going to retire quite soon. And on the other hand, there are end users which, because of this, don't want actually to be fully involved into new generations platform like EAE 61499 and object-oriented languages, because, as you said, it's different the way of programming, it's different the way of designing applications. So they don't get fully involved, but if they would have actually access to younger people more keen to learn these languages. Now, my personal experience is that it's much easier as an end user to work with young engineers or young technicians that are willing to change their paradigm of conceiving automation and gaining something which is beyond the usual way of doing things. On the contrary, if I take a very experienced automation person and I give you this new environment, it doesn't really see the opportunity, it sees the obstacles because it is not done the way it was usually done. So my suggestion as someone who already went through that path is to actually, let's say, do not skip the technology just because it's harder to get, because you get rewards, and this was mentioned, and use this as a leverage to involve a new generation of technicians that are willing to use this as an opportunity to learn and shape their role in the new generation automation systems. So from the side of the vendor and the technology provider, obviously there are different answers, but from my point of view, this is an important step to do.
No, and your answer is quite credible because you've done it. I mean, in terms of, I don't know if you want to add anything or compliment.
Well, I can say, I mean, for sure. But then I can also say that most of our members that have joined us is actually driven by quite older people too. So there's hope too on that side. I think they keep an open mind, and they say, you know, when they keep an open mind for 1 hour or 1 day or 2 days, and then there's a light bulb coming out, and they say, wow, with this I can do what I used to do before and much more. And then that kind of dilutes the, you know, all those barriers to do things differently. But change, you know, humans resist change. So yeah, I think Franco gave the more straightforward solution.
Yeah. I think you have to combine both strategy. I think you need to find the early adopters from either from the younger generation. By the get-go, they will be early adopters because they don't know anything else. But even in the more senior, more experienced talent, because you need that domain expertise, there will be early adopters that are willing to join, and we've seen that with some of our even more. You mentioned Exxon. I mean, it's led by quite a senior crowd, and they're all fully adaptive because they see what it can do. I think that's also the focus. We need to show the value, and to Franco's point, not necessarily the obstacle, but the value. So.
Well, also maybe IT. No, I see that some company, like, it's a way to talk to some companies as well through IT. IT also kind of sees it in a different way, so that's also a good open door.
If I can, like, the end user is really interested. I think they're just looking at what is their the support for their transition look like. So a lot of times senior buyers or executives, they're like, yeah, that sounds good. Those values, I want those. How do I support my team of 3 automation technicians, you know, being able to support us if we adopt this? So it wasn't, the question was more about like what resources or training or access to forums do they have if they're having to make that transition, right? And where do they get those? So your answers were great and really helpful. And like I say, Marco, coming from your position, I think that's a good message to take of they have an aging workforce, so this can be a reason to help with that. Anyways, look, I don't want to steal the mic.
No, that's a good, I mean, you're bringing a good topic. That's why this forum is on people. Change management is key. You know, it's a big paradigm shift we're doing now. We're getting this feedback, and I think, you know, how we're equipping, we're in Schneider to help our clients is by change management. We're helping them to put a strategy, either via digital transformation. We have a practice that does change management. So even in this world of open automation, there's a change management that we need to talk to our clients, discuss to them, say, hey, where you are, and depending on your workforce, where they are, what's their skill, we're helping them with that transition. So that's part of the process. We clearly understand there's you know, I would say a barrier to entry for, you know, people need to change their way of working, but they have to see the benefits.
Well, what I can say is that join UAO. It's not just about the runtime. It's about okay. It's about really an ecosystem for open innovation where other end users are sharing their own practice. Personally, I have been sharing my own guidelines, our own library of software objects for EAE, with examples. I have helped system integrators doing training to other system integrators. So what we are trying to build is not just the runtime, which is huge, but it's really pushing the adoption by sort of leveraging the sharing of know-how between users, vendors, and let's say software developers, system integrators. That is a great way to understand how to, let's say, bridge the gap between today and tomorrow.
Any other questions or comments on reactions on some of the comments? Any thoughts you guys want to share further?
It's okay.
I mean, I can add one topic. You know, we more and more adoption of technology. We tend to focus on technology, and we had that conversation earlier today about digitization. You have to take it in the context of not just the technology itself, but the change, the people aspect, and the process aspect. So it has to become part of the journey. Otherwise, if you only focus on, okay, it's cool technology we want to implement, at the end of the day, most likely you're going to fail. So you see it in cybersecurity. That's an approach we've taken, you know, people, technology, and process. And I think in any new technology adoption, that's what you have to keep in mind. So that would be my takeaway in terms of, you know, some of the implementation of any new type of technology, which is so disruptive in the current space. So.
Perhaps one last sentence from my side is, and I use that for many cases when it comes to change management, and we're discussing artificial intelligence topics right now, also up and down and right and left. But when it comes to the point of who to involve and how to manage that, then I'm always giving the advice to the teams, go for the guys who are burning for the subject. And that is making the difference. Don't waste your time with those who know how it doesn't work. that is as simple as that, and I think that the philosophy helped us also to get to the level. And basically also now in the meantime, it's great fun to work for sustainability. There's hardly anybody who is not let's say driven by that subject. So if you can combine it and say, hey, look, we save energy by that one, or we do this and this, then there's purpose, and then people are mobilized.
And then yes, with sustainability, I can certainly share that's also a really great approach to bring the new generation.
Yes.
They're all, I mean, sustainability for them is quite a big incentive. It's a purpose for them, and I think when you show that you can improve, and then via these technology you can improve that. That's you get the young generation engaged. So, Raquel, any last thoughts you want to share with the crowd?
Well, but coming back to, in UAO we provide training as well. I mean, apart from, I mean, I think the most value is in the community, as Franco said, almost. But we provide free trainings to our members around the world. We're creating resources to have online trainings. So, you know, we're creating a whole community to do this change together in a way. So that's better than on your own for sure.
Join UAO.
Maurice, one last thought you want to share with the group? One last thought? You're good?
No, not the last.
What about Franco? Then maybe you can have the last word.
I think I already talked quite a lot during the session. Just one sentence, which is in line with what I said before, is that software-defined automation means that automation people will get more importance in the automation definition itself. So all these new functionalities that we have been talking for many years, since Industry 4.0 came out, digital twin, AI integrated, and so on, will really become of practice only the moment we start designing automation having that in mind, which is not yet happened. You start designing application the same old way. You have your I/O list, you have your devices, you have your hardware to deploy on, and you have your specification from someone else. And the automation person, the automation people, does not really play a role in designing the application. They execute the application itself. So if you are an automation practitioner, start thinking about increasing your role in the value chain, because this is the only way where we are getting the sustainability objectives that we are talking about. Integrating in real-time automation these new functionalities. And only people that knows about software for automation can do that, because process people don't know anything about it.
No, that's a really good insight, and bringing it with the, when you do the design of the plan, then all the automation part becomes part of this famous digital twin that then further comes down, even save a lot of energy into the whole life cycle of a construction of a new site. So thank you all of you for the great insights, and thank you for all of you for attending. So have a great rest of the event.